Dattana Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Dear friends in the Dhamma, very happy New Year to each and every one of you. Still we are in the first week of the New Year. Of course, you will have another New Year in a month, right? So New Year is an important opportunity for us to renew ourselves, right? And in Singapore, whenever I have New Year talks, I told them that New Year gives us a second chance, So we all like to have a second chance, right? Because we will not be able to, be perfect all the time. Sometimes we can try, but we can be not successful, fail. There are challenges, so we should not stop trying. So we all like to have a second chance. So New Year is a second chance. If you could not achieve your goal last year, if you could not do what you planned to do last year, and so you have another chance. Yeah. But you just have to remember that there are not many second chances, because every year we are losing a chance. Every year we are losing a chance, and then and every year we have less year to live, right? So therefore, it's important we have a second chance, but we have to use them wisely. So I'm so glad today to see all of you, and I can see a lot of familiar faces, and also some faces from our pilgrimage to India, right? And nice to see you all. So today, Brother Leslie gave me a little, controversial topic. Not controversial, but little topic. Sounds quite commercial. Yeah, so like a commercial transaction. But actually, this practice of sharing merit is something that we do in our Buddhist practice very commonly, right? And even after the Dhamma talk, we do the sharing of merits. So in many of our Buddhist ceremonies and functions, we have this important practice, and particularly there are also special months that you will particularly engage in memorial services and remembering our departed ones and sharing merits. So it's a very common Buddhist practice. We share merits with our departed relatives, and we share merits with the devas, divine beings. Therefore, this is a very common Buddhist practice. But today, I would like to discuss the mechanism of this so-called transaction. Exactly how merits that we produce in our mind is transferred to someone else. I think that is why Brother Leslie liked the term bank. Sending your own merit bank to someone else's bank, right? I think nowadays we are very familiar with the online bank, right? So if you want to send some funds to your friend, your family member, or to someone, you have certain apps, right? And then you can use it, and you can send certain amounts, whatever amounts you like, and they will get it. Once you send it, it will come. Okay, your transaction is successful, right? And then there will be another email confirming that your transaction is successful. And then maybe the recipient may inform you, thank you, I got it. Sometimes certain apps even say that, okay, he has collected, those donations, right? So, for example, sometimes when I want to help, some monks and monasteries in Sri Lanka, some families, I sometimes use MoneyGram and also Wise. So when they collect the donation, I also get an email, they collected. Sometimes they forgot to tell me, but, but the system tells you that they have collected the donation. So is there a way that we can actually know, just like that, when we share the merits with others, do we really know how have they really received it? What is the technique, what is the real mechanism here? Is there a way that we can get a confirmation that they received the merits? So looks like it's not going to be that easy. Exactly, actually there's a very interesting sutra, a very important discussion we find in the sutta called Janusani Sutta, where one Brahmin called Janusani and came and asked the Buddha a similar question. He said that because as Brahmins, they are very good in funeral services and also memorial services. They have very organized, systematic methods of doing certain rituals on specific days after the passing away of a person. So he came to the Buddha and asked, we perform these memorial services to our departed ones, and so then he asked, what do you think, Venerable Sir? Do they really receive them? So maybe he just privately asked from the Buddha, because he will not simply ask that from the common public, because they perform those things as if they are guaranteed that the departed ones will receive. But he came to the Buddha and he asked this question, Venerable Sir, what do you think? Do they really receive what we offer them? And then the answer that Buddha gave, let me say the exact word the Buddha said that. In possible places, Brahman, it accrues to them, but not in impossible places. That was the answer of the Buddha. Do they really receive it? And Buddha said that in possible places they will get it, and not in impossible places. Which means that in some cases they may get it, some cases they may not get it. In possible places means if in the suitable cases they will get it, in unsuitable places they will not get it. And then of course then Buddha went in to explain what are the possible places, so what are the suitable cases that others can receive the merits. But I'm not going to explain that because that comes later. So it was a question that even many people were concerned even at the time of the Buddha. So it's important for us to understand what is happening in that case. Because I had to do it, because otherwise if we, how we can share the merits at the end of the Dhamma talk. Right? We will today I have a real challenge. Not like other days, I have to somehow convince and explain this whole thing, otherwise I will not be able to conclude, do the sharing merits at the end. So and I think before that we can see even in the Buddha's advice, and Buddha has recommended in a number of places to do the memorial services. He didn't mention about merits, but he recommended us to remember our departed ones and do memorial services or do meritorious deeds in their name. For example, I think you have heard about Singalovada Sutta. That is the sutta the Buddha gave particularly for lay people. Sometimes we call it is the disciplinary book for the lay followers. For the monks and nuns, we have a whole basket, a whole section called discipline and disciplinary code. So there's some people ask, what is the disciplinary code for upasakas and upasikas? What is the disciplinary code for lay people? One could be Singalovada Sutta, where Buddha described, as a lay person, you live as a family member, as a child, as a parent, and also you you can be a student or a teacher, and you can be employee or maybe employer, right? And then you are a husband or a wife, and then you can have maybe, friends with you. So all this relationship, how you truly maintain those relationships, and what are the duties that you have to perform as a child towards parents, as parents towards children, and as a student towards teachers, and as a teacher towards students, and vice versa. So we can, Buddha has explained 6 relationships, including how you should behave towards religious priests, monks, and any religious leaders, and how the religious leaders should treat the followers. Each one has 5 duties. Only monks and nuns have 6 duties. Buddha has added 1. Yeah. But anyway, so when Buddha described the duties of a child towards parents, and so he listed 5 duties, and then the last of the 4, the first 4 is something that you can do while they are alive. Taking care of them, when they are, feeble, and make sure that, and then also continue whatever good social services or religious activities they have started, while they are living. Don't let them see that what the good things they started are, not happening. So make sure that you continue them, and also we have to protect the honor, the respect of the family. If they have lived well and created some honor and respect, and we have to protect them. And if your parents give you any material inheritance, protect them and improve them. Those are the 4 which can be done while they are living. But the last one is called when parents passed away, perform meritorious deeds in their name and dedicate to them. So that is one place. There are other places also where Buddha has recommended and encouraged us to do memorial services, because our duty towards our parents are not finished when they are gone, when they are passed away. We still have to be grateful, and then continue to do good deeds in their name. So therefore there's a recommendation, from the Buddha. But how exactly these things happen? So I think for this, because we use the term merit, maybe first we need to understand what are the merits, right? What are the merits? What do we really mean by these merits? So in Pali word for merits is punya or punya. We can also simply say that it is good karma, the good karma and bad karma. So one other term that refers to good karma is meritorious deed. But the merits stand for the the karmic conditionings we generate by performing a good deed. So of course we can say meritorious deeds, which means the deeds that produce merits. So merits is something that is produced in our mind as a form of conditionings, as a form of creating a trace in our mind as a result of doing a wholesome deed. So we know that when you learn about the karma, whenever we perform any volitional activities, wholesome or unwholesome, when you are performing that activities, you are doing it willingly, volitionally, you choose it, to deliberately you are doing it, right? And that is the one criteria in the Buddhist understanding of karma. We have to have cetana, which is volition or deliberation, like a genuine. So only volitional actions become the karma, not all actions. but volitional actions. So Chetana is an important part of the karma. So whenever we do any volitional actions, any deliberate actions, although the action is over, the impact that action has done to our mind remains. You may be, helping someone, dedicating your time, maybe even sacrificing your comfort, and you are helping someone, your help is done, the person is benefited, you departed. Action is over. But in that whole process of helping the other person, the impact that action, that deliberate volitional actions done to our stream of consciousness remains as seeds, like traces of that. Same thing with the bad, unwholesome actions. You want to hurt someone, you want to, maybe revenge with someone, and so you engage in that activity. It will take some time, take some effort, take some planning, and the action is done. And then, even though it's over, but the impact, unwholesome impact, that whole process done to our mind remains. So those are called good karma and the bad karma. So merits are those the traces that we leave in our consciousness. So the one way to understand them is as seeds. We can also call them potencies. Potencies. So the important to understand them as seeds, because seeds create these potencies to give similar results later. But these things will give result only when there is other conducive factors are present. So some seeds will give rise to will become plants. Some seeds may not become plants if there is no appropriate conditionings. So all our good or bad karma, both karmas are like seeds. These potencies, wholesome and unwholesome, we created, so they have full potential to do it, but then it has to find the appropriate conditioning to have the rest or the maturation. So today we are only talking about the good part, the merits. So in simple way to understand merits is they are the potencies that we develop in our mind as a result of doing wholesome deeds, good karma. And then how we can give that to someone else. Because now we understand that because it's a chetana, it's a volition, that is a key role in this whole, process of generating merits. It's a purely psychological product. It's a psychological thing that's happening in each individual person. And even there's when in the many discourses where Buddha described the karma, he used the term kammasaka. Kammasaka means karma is one's own. Kammasaka. Karma is one's own. Because it is the volition. Maybe, all of us as a group may be doing a good deed together. Okay? As a group, we do a good deed together. Will we get the same karma? If we do a good deed, we will all get the good karma, but exactly how profound or what is the gravity of the karma will be different from person to person based on their involvement in the action, right? So we, as a group, we can do a charity work or maybe other good work, but what each individual will generate or create will be different from person to person, because kammasaka, karma is individual and it is psychological and it is one's own. So how you can give this seed to someone else? This is the problem. How we can give? So this is more like a very private account, private bank account, not easy to transfer. There are a lot of rules and regulations. Government control, you cannot really simply transfer. Maybe you can only get it whenever you need to expend. So there are certain funds like that, right? So you have these funds and you are allowable to use it for specific, things, but you cannot transfer. Yeah. So looks like karma is something like that. So karma in general is not transferable. So merits is not transferable in that sense. It's because it's for psychological. It's involved the chetana and individual, kammasaka, one's own. So then what we do then? What we have been doing in the Buddhist tradition then, by, sometimes we use the term transference of merit, right? Yeah. So if it is that individual, how we can really transfer? If you read the Buddhist text, and even sometime in our, chanting book, but do we have a small chanting book? Yeah, later. There's an important Pali term used to this practice. Yes. Can you turn to the, on the sharing merits? What is the term that they have written? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Say the Pali one. Yes. That is, yeah. Merits. Okay. Yes. Yeah. So the Pali term for this act is called patti dana. Patti dana. Dana means giving, right? Giving patti. Patti dana. And the other one is called pattanumodana. That is the role of the receiver. If you are the one who's dedicating, giving, and that act of giving is called patti dana, giving of patti. And importantly, in Pali term, you don't use the term punya. Punya is the term for merits. Okay, so it is not punya dana. Have you heard that term punya dana? No, right? We haven't heard about that. It is not used anywhere. It is not punya dana because you can't give punya. You can't give merits. It's something you produce as a potencies in your own mind. It's not something you can, give to someone. But Pali term is patti. And what is patti? That is what we need to understand. What is patti? Patti dana. Actually, patti dana is one of the 10 meritorious deeds. In the Buddhist tradition, in addition to the Noble Eightfold Path, and if you want to do more merits, there are 10 meritorious deeds. 10 meritorious deeds. Dana, charity. Sila, following moral precepts. And bhavana, meditation. And then, danang, silancha, bhavana, patti pattanumodana. Giving patti. And I will explain later what is patti. Usually we say giving merits, usual translation we find it. And then pattanumodana, rejoicing others' merits. And then veyyavacha, that means doing voluntary services, giving your labor to someone. Voluntary services, helping and supporting with our labor. That is veyyavacha. And apachayana, that is attending to sick or old people. And how many? How many I said? Did you count? Dana, sila, bhavana, patti dana, pattanumodana, and then veyyavacha, voluntary services, and then apachayana, attending, taking care of, attending to the sick and the old. And then, how many? 7. And then Dhamma Savana. Listening to the Dhamma. You are doing it right now. And then Dhamma Desana. Preaching the Dhamma. I'm also doing one now. So preaching the Dhamma. Dhamma Desana and Dhamma Savana. And the last one is called Dittiju Kamma. Correcting one's view. Establishing in Sammaditi, correct view. So it's more like a wisdom, correcting one's vision in line with the Dhamma. So those are called 10 meritorious deeds. So the 2 of them are related to patti, So giving patti is also a meritorious deed. And then pattanumodana, rejoicing also the meritorious deed. So now the problem is to understand what is this patti. Usual translation of patti, even actually in the standard Pali English dictionary, you find the term merits. But actually I found in close reading of the Buddhist text, patti does not mean merits. Patti means actually a share. A share, you know the share markets? Yeah. If someone wants a term, Pali term for share market, you can use the term patti. Like a share, you know, like in any company you have shares. So in the same way, any act, any deed, you can have also share. Let's say, you know, 4 people get together, you want to support a monastery, you want to support, you want to give a dana. So you take you take a share of that dana. If the cost is, let's say, 100 ringgit, okay, you take one share, you take another share, you give 25 ringgits, and then you together give the dana, and each one has a share of the meritorious deed. So term patti stands for that share. So patti dana means actually giving, not giving merits, giving a share of a meritorious deed. That is what patti means. Actually, I found interesting few stories in the Pali commentaries. There was one person who's selling bee honey in the market. So those days. So the one family want to give dana to monks. You know, the monks who are coming tomorrow to their village, so they want to give the dana. So they want to give some delicacies. So they went to this shopkeeper and asked for honey. So when he asked for honey, he asked, why you are buying this honey? So he told that tomorrow, group of monks will come, so we want to give them dana. And then the shopkeeper said that, okay, in that case, can you give me a patti? Can you give me a patti of that dana? Can you give me a share of dana? I don't want to charge. Then the family agreed, okay, become a partner. There's a pattiko hota, become a partner. So they agreed, so the shopkeeper gave them the honey. So the donors, organizers of the dana, gave him patti. That is patti dana. You're giving him the share, giving him the partnership of the meritorious deed. So that is, how you give to a living person. Okay. And then when I read more, I found actually, so that shopkeeper got the patti before, when they are organizing the dana. There's another instance actually, the one rich merchant, he came to know about a meritorious deed done by his servant. Actually, according to the story, this merchant was sleeping, and then suddenly he heard a sound of saying sadhu. And he wondered, what is that sadhu? According to that story, that sadhu is by the divine beings. And so he communicated with them, why you are saying sadhu? He said, your servant just gave a dana to Pacheka Buddha, the self-enlightened Buddha. Your servant gave it, and we rejoiced that. And that is why we said sadhu. The merchant got so interested, and he also wanted to have a patti, a share. So he already gave the dana. So next day when the servant came home, he told the servant, I heard about your good deed. You are such a wise person. Can you give me a patti? He already done the dana. He already spent the money, but now he's going to give him some share of that cost, expense, and asking a patti from him. And the servant said, okay, I'm willing to give you a patti. So he got 100 coins from the merchant. Okay, declare that I will give you the patti, so give me $100. So he made his master, a partner of this meritorious deed. And then, so that is done after performing the activity. But the issue here actually, there's a role of the giver who is giving, who is allowing others to be a part of it. But the other important part is the receiver's role. The receiver role is called pattanumodana. Anumodana is the role of the receiver. So you can give, but if the receiver does not play his role, he will not receive it. So the receiver's role is called anumodana. That means rejoicing, approving, and deeply be pleased with it. So that is what is called anumodana. So the receiver had to do it. So I think we also do it, before we die. Even when we are alive, we rejoice other people's good deeds, don't we? Right? If someone, did the dana or, did a good deed, help someone, you send a photo with WhatsApp your friend, this is what I did. If the friend can genuinely rejoice, saying sadhu, 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 my friend did such a great thing, I'm so happy he did. If you can rejoice that, what is happening right there? In the act of rejoicing, you purify your mind. So the very act of rejoicing becomes a meritorious deed. And that is called anumodana. And we do it while we are alive. Right? I feel maybe the easiest way to do merits is to rejoice others' merits. No need to spend money. Right? No need to spend so many hard work and look for other people's good deed and rejoice. Shortcut. But you may think that it is short, but actually genuine rejoicing is not that easy. Not that easy. Because our mind can be so tricky, can be so complex, there can be elements of jealousy, elements of dislike, elements of criticism, and elements of this person is sending me, posting in the social media, he wants to show off, so if you have those, little elements, those are the dirt, and you will not fully rejoice it. So genuinely rejoice in others' meritorious deed is not easy. But we can do it. So whenever you see some meritorious deed in social media, don't criticize them. Let them do it. You may approve, maybe you may think that there's a better way of doing things. That's okay. But genuinely rejoice the generosity of the other person. Because that's an opportunity for you to purify your heart and generate merits at that moment. So actually, there's a story, I think we all heard about Vishaka, the main, one of the female main benefactor of the Buddha. And she built an important monastery to the Buddha. Brother, we didn't have enough time to visit that place, right? Yeah, yes. It is in Rajagahanora, right? Rajagahanora, Rajgir. That is the first mention that Buddha offered. The Buddha was offered, first mentioned, like a few stories. But the other monasteries were like a large, grove. But Visakha, she's a rich lady, and of course very, righteous and following the Dhamma. She offered few stories mentioned. So in that story of building that mansion and offering it, so she appointed one of her servants to in charge of this whole, construction, offering this mansion. So she did it wholeheartedly. Because she also, had the great faith in the Buddha. She did it wholeheartedly, worked so hard. And on the day when the Vishaka dedicated this monastery to the whole community of monks, she was on the side. And, Vishaka was on the front with the presence of the monks, but she was on the side. But looking at this whole dedication, she rejoiced that deed so much, because she really rejoiced that my master did such a great thing. This is going to benefit all the monks and nuns, and this will bring a lot of growth in the Buddhism. So she genuinely rejoiced that. As a result of that, even though she didn't do it by herself, but because genuinely rejoicing it, and after a breakup of her body, passing away, she was able to be born as a very powerful devata. So she didn't spend a penny, but she was able to get the benefit because she genuinely mentally participated. So, but that is not easy. That is not easy. So there are two ways to do meritorious deed. One is spend our time, energy, money, and do it. Other one is piggyback. Looking at others, good deeds, and genuinely rejoice in them. Which is not easy to. So therefore, we have to have that rejoicing. But now let's come to our practice. How we can. So now we know that the patidana doesn't mean giving the merits, but actually we are giving a share of the ownership of a meritorious deed. We are giving a partnership of the meritorious deed, not the fruits. The fruits is the merits, that is individual, that is psychological. But we are giving the partnership of a deed, meritorious deed to someone. So how can we do it? With the departed ones. Right? And importantly, we can give it. But the important role of the receiver is anumodana, rejoicing it. If they don't rejoice it, they will not get it. Because it's not really we are giving, it's not something we are transferring, but we are giving an opportunity for others to do merits by themselves. So there's an interesting other story that find in the Dhammapada commentary, Dhammapada stories. There's one novice monk. And he, after he became a monk and he practiced, and one day he was invited to give a Dhamma talk. So he prepared for it well, taking a lot of time, getting instruction from the senior monks, and prepared. And so then he was very happily gave the first sermon, in his life. After that, he wanted to dedicate his merits, the Dhamma Desana, the merits of preaching Dhamma, to his parents. So at the end of the sermon, he dedicated, may this meritorious deed be dedicated to my parents. But parents were not in that group, in that audience. So they didn't know. So there's no chance for them to rejoice in this meritorious deed. So although he made the invitation or dedication, the parents did not produce any merits. But according to the story, among that crowd, there was also a non-human being who was the mother of this novice monk in previous lives, not in this life. So that non-human being was around that audience. When the monk dedicated this merits to his parents, she got that message. Oh, he's dedicated to parents. I was his mother in previous lives. So she rejoiced that merit. She got it. It's not like actually she got the merits from the monk, but when the monks invited to rejoice in this good deed, and I'm dedicating this for you. I'm dedicating this deed for you. So then when the previous mother rejoiced it, and she got it. So the current parents did not rejoice, therefore there's no chance for them to generate merits for themselves. So we can understand that actually what is really happening in so-called sharing merits or sharing or transference of merits is actually the doer of a good deed is inviting others to be a partner of it. You are giving a share of the meritorious deed, not the merits, the meritorious deed. If the other party, the receiver, is rejoicing it. Either you can, there are two ways to be partner. Either you can contribute to the meritorious deed by giving some donation, or if the donor is willing, donor can give a share without charge too. So usually that's what we do. So if the donor is inviting you to be a partner of it, if we can genuinely rejoice in that deed, that receiver, actually not the receiver, he generate merits for himself. So what is really happening here, that there's nothing transferred. It's not, there's no, so your bank, your merit bank you can keep for yourself, don't worry. Nothing is transferred. Your merit will be for you, but you dedicate, you invite the others to be partner of the meritorious deed. So as a result of rejoicing in the others' meritorious deed, other people generate merits for themselves. We are only creating the opportunity. So now remember when that Brahmin, I begin with the story, right? When the Brahmin, Janusani Brahmin, asked from the Buddha whether the departed ones receive it or not, Buddha said that in some cases yes, some cases not. Buddha said that in possible places they get it, in possible places they don't get it. And Buddha then explained, because not every departed relative will be able to rejoice in our meritorious deed. Only those who can witness or who can pay attention to what we are doing in their name can rejoice themselves and generate merits for themselves. So therefore Buddha gave example. For example, if our departed relatives is born in a realm of ghost, for example, they may witness what we are doing. And then there are also a particular category of petas, ghosts who are actually relying on others' meritorious deeds because they cannot do by themselves. And of course, if there's a deva, divine beings, who can witness and they can rejoice too. Of course, as any other living person, if you can witness someone else's good deeds, you can rejoice that too. If they invite, you can do it willingly. Even though they don't invite, you can still rejoice, right? So when Buddha said that it is some cases they will benefit and some cases they will not benefit, what the Buddha meant by is that if they can rejoice, if they can do the anumodana, because that is the receiver part. If the receiver role is not done, there's no way to have it. So if they can rejoice the good deed, they will benefit from it. So in order to rejoice, you have to pay attention to what others are asking you to pay attention to. You have to pay attention, you have to mentally involve in that deed. So only departed relatives who may be in need of merits, who can witness our meritorious deed in the form of a deva or in the form of a ghost, can benefit from it. If they are already a human being in the mother's womb, maybe a little child, they have no clue what we are doing in their name. So there's no way they can rejoice. But of course, it's our duty to do it, but they will not be benefited necessarily by our meritorious deed, because the important part is rejoicing. So therefore, when we say idang me ñāti nang hotu, sukhita hontu ñātayo. Idang me ñāti nang hotu. So may this be for the benefit of my relatives. Sukhita hontu ñātayo. May my relatives be well and happy. That's what we say. Idang may this be for the benefit of my relatives, and may they be well and happy. Sukhita hontu ñātayo. So when you say may this, so in the Pali is very clear. It doesn't say idang punya. You say they say idang me ñātina. May this be for the benefit of my relatives. So what is this? It's not the merits. It's the meritorious deed. Meritorious deed, not the merits, meritorious deed. So you say, may this meritorious deed be for the benefit of the relatives. You are like inviting them to rejoice in this. And if they rejoice, they will generate their own merits. So nothing is transferred. We are just creating the opportunity to create merits for themselves. That is what we do when we say sharing of merits. So in that sense, actually, the proper way of saying maybe dedication of meritorious deeds, maybe sharing meritorious deeds, maybe the proper term, but usually we say share merits. Yes, yes, brother.
The person will keep the merit. He shares the deed, and the person will have the merit.
Yes, yes, exactly. But the sharing, inviting others to share your, share your good meritorious deed is also another meritorious deed. You increase, in fact. You don't decrease. This is a different bank system, Yeah, it's very difficult. It's not the common bank system. More you give, more you get. Because when you do a meritorious deed, and as a result, you generate the merits, your potencies, the seeds that has potential to give future results, and then you invite others to be part of this, and that act itself is another meritorious deed. Increase your merits. So please be generous and share your meritorious as much as possible. You're not going to lose any of the merits. So it's a whole different mechanism happening here. And thank you for your attention, and maybe we can have some discussion. Yes.
Bhante, just now you mentioned there must be sincerity in rejoicing, right, and presence. So what are the other conditions? Let's say I'm doing chanting for my parents and they are alive, but they're not present. So that condition failed. So my merits, my meritorious deed then does not multiply into those merits. Is that what? So what are the other conditions that must be present? You
mean for the departed ones?
No, for a alive.
Living person?
Yeah.
To
yeah, so for any meritorious deed.
Yeah.
So the conditions that must exist for this, the recipient to be able to rejoice and hence receive
Actually, generate merits in themselves. So, of course, there should be an invitation, maybe announcement to the other person, from the giver. Okay, and usually we can say that I did the meritorious deed. Maybe sometimes you can say I did it for you. Let's say your parents are living somewhere else, their birthdays are coming. So maybe their wedding anniversaries are coming, so they are far away, but you go to a temple, you go to some other places, you did some meritorious deed and inform them, okay, today I did this for you.
So it must be before.
You mean?
I must inform them before I do it.
No, not necessarily. Anyway, if you inform them before, so they will be like prepared in their mind. It will rejoice more. Maybe you can just do it, that will be the proper way. But you can also do it and also announce them later. I did this for you. And maybe send some photos, maybe just explain them, because you have to give them more details to rejoice. Because the more they know about exactly what you did, even though they were not there, but you give them you increase the opportunity for them to rejoice. So the level of rejoice can also be different. Maybe they can rejoice, oh, okay, they have done a good deed, very slight, Or maybe they can think, oh, what a good thing, they have done. I'm so glad. So many people have benefited, So like how long the chetana, their volition, how powerful is their volition, how long they maintain that volition, it all will decide what kind of good karma that they produce for themselves. So there should be an announcement, maybe an announcement or like informing them, and then so they have to pay attention to it. What kind of attention they will give. Maybe slight, maybe it's long and strong. We don't know. So they have to pay attention to it, and then they have to rejoice it. Yeah.
So all this while, when
Yeah.
you do in their name, like I buy Buddha, I sponsor Buddha, or
Yeah.
Dana on their behalf,
Yeah. No, no. No. You have increased your bank account. You have increased your merit bank. Yeah, but of course, you haven't given them the opportunity to.
So I can start telling them now what I need to do.
Yes, please tell all the list, and then explain exactly what you did. And still, they have got the opportunity to go through all these things and rejoice. And once they do it, they purify their heart at that moment. As a result, they generate merits right there.
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
Inform them.
yeah.
Doesn't matter when.
Yes, yeah.
And then give them the attention.
Yeah. Give more details. They can so spend more time thinking about it. Yeah.
They can visualize and
Yes, exactly.
And then third is
Yeah, pay attention and rejoice. Sometimes you can pay attention without rejoicing it too. So the rejoicing is very important.
so
Three.
this must exist.
Yeah.
Bhante, to follow
Yes.
up. So if you do that, you may unconsciously overdo that and then you become boastful.
Remorseful?
Boastful. I mean,
A boast.
arrogant. The pride will come, that kind of thing. So this one question before I go. The other thing, Bhante,
Yeah.
based on your explanation, means that we actually can share the merit. We cannot transfer the merit. Based on your definition.
Yeah, exactly.
We can share the merit, we cannot transfer because merits are
Actually,
individually
more
owned.
correctly, share the meritorious deed.
Yeah. Okay, if we don't have the deed, we only can share.
Yes.
We don't transfer because
Yes.
we individually own it and
Yeah.
psychologically.
Exactly.
Thank you, Bhante.
Yeah, dedicate the action. Like you did a good deed, you dedicate that for your parents, for your departed ones. Like a dedication means you give the ownership to them. You dedicate, but it's up to them to rejoice it. But you can dedicate, you can allocate it. Yeah.
Oh, that brother just now said that if we always do it right, it's like we are boasting. I think he said that just now.
Yeah.
Because I did hear one of my friends say that each time her friend did food dana at a temple, she will send her a picture and say, I did a transference. Okay, she used transference of merits. IMO her late husband. So when I heard that, I was thinking, every week she had to do that, huh?
Yes.
I didn't understand it then, of course. So that is actually the right thing to do, so that my friend actually can rejoice in her deeds, right?
Yeah.
Meritorious deeds. So then, Bhante, just to share, or just to, when the late sister Bodhi passed on, and you were sharing a picture of her,
Yeah.
and I was thinking whether I should actually comment and say, I'm so happy that I took the picture for you. Right.
Yeah.
Right now, that time I thought I was being,
Just
did I need to say it, that it was me, it's me, that kind of thing. In a way should I? Well, people think that I'm taking ownership or boasting. But now, thanks again that I realized that you are rejoicing in it because you thanked me.
Yeah.
So, sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
It's good that we have to be mindful. What is our motives. Whenever we share any good deed with others, and we have to really mindful because our mind can play tricks. And then in the name of sharing the meritorious deed, maybe we are looking for appreciation. Looking for fame or whatever, yeah. But mostly we share merits with our departed ones, with our, deities. And maybe when we post in the social media, our friends, if they want, they can, rejoice, yeah. So, but we have to check, what is, my motive. So whenever we share merits with our departed ones, we genuinely want them to be benefited from this. We don't look for any fame in that. So only that becomes an issue when we share our meritorious deed with our, living friends, family members, whether how much of that posting, how much of that informing others has a genuine, need them to be part of it, or how much is it, our hidden, need to be, have a hidden need to have fame. So maybe it's a good reminder for us to check, double check all the time. definitely, yeah.
So that means the rejoicing should not be by the wife of the big person.
Person?
Is it necessary then? Like the person who did the dana informed the wife.
Okay. Usually among family members, yeah, they can do it, definitely. Yeah, they can do it. And usually whenever we do a good deed, it's good, you get family members also to rejoice in that. Yeah, we can, and yeah, yeah, if you do it with a, genuine, motive, that's a good thing. Because some people may not have time to do a meritorious deed by themselves, right? So when you get the opportunity to do it, and maybe you can ask them, look here, at least rejoice in that. If you can't do it, at least rejoice and generate merit even in that way. Yeah.
Bhante, like you say, for the living is easy to inform. How do you inform the non-living
Yeah.
when you share the merits?
Yes.
How do they know?
Yes.
How do you make them know?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. How we inform others, how we inform the dead, how we inform the departed relatives, and how we inform the devas. That is what we do in that chanting book. When we say idang me nyati nang, that is the announcement. May this meritorious be for the benefit of my departed relatives, and may they be well and happy. And when you also chant aka sattach, and then ettavattach, that is the announcement. So actually it's more like a mental communication. So we can say it verbally. That is why we also do the pouring of the water, because that way we will focus our mind. Actually that announcement, informing the others happens with our mind, particularly with our departed relatives, and we have a strong mental connection, although they are gone. So if they are really looking for, to rejoice merits, if they really need in such help, and then whenever we focus on them, they will feel it. So when we pour the water, because it takes time, so when you pour the water, it is also a practice, to help us to focus our mind. If you can close your eyes and fully focus on of your departed relatives and without having any other thoughts, and fully dedicate, may this meritorious be for the benefit of this, my mother or father, may they benefit from that. If you can do it with focused mind, you don't need a water, water jug or anything. But as monks, we know your mind. So therefore, we use that as a tool, as a support. Because even when you are explaining the benefits of the meritorious deed, you may be thinking about other things. How much food is left. Who are the other people to be fed. You will have all kind of concern. But when you say, okay, now take the pot, and then you actually pay your attention to that, and we say the names of the departed ones, of names of this life. So, and then it helps us to focus on them. And so therefore when you do it, so you engage your body, speech and mind. You are pouring the water, you are already engaged in that activity, you are saying the words, idam me nyati nang, and then your mind, you are thinking about them. So when you do this three, at least when you say it and when you do it, it's very hard for you to think about something else. So we use the water ceremony to support people to focus on this act and on this, their departed ones, so they can send a signal, from their mind, so that will get their attention. They get their attention, and if they pay their attention, if they rejoice, they will generate merits for themselves.
Hi, Bhante. So the receiver must be able to rejoice what we do in order to receive the meritorious act. What if the person who doesn't, or they are not Buddhist, the parent or your relative you want to transfer, they are not Buddhist, they probably not appreciative of what we do. Let's say chanting, they probably don't appreciate it.
Yeah.
So if they won't rejoice, let's say we transfer, so you won't get any merit for if let's say we do that.
Yeah, brother. Actually, there's no merits is going from us to them. It's just they themselves generate the merits. We just give the opportunity. If they don't rejoice, they don't generate.
Right.
Yeah, but I think, if it doesn't have to be a Buddhist for someone to generate merits. Any human being, as long as they purify their mind, at least, for a short moment, they generate merits. So maybe not chanting, let's say, if they appreciate your act of like your charity work, helping someone or doing other good deed. So I think there are still deeds that, anyone can appreciate.
Right.
Yeah, but if they don't appreciate, they don't then generate good merits. So, yes.
Sukhihan to Bhante. Bhante, the gentleman just now said something about if the person is of another faith, does he receive or not receive? I think year 2000, my mom died. And during the funeral period, we had to entertain my mom's friends who came from a very varied background. They're Sai Baba devotees, they're Hindus, they're Muslims. So we had a corner for them, and they say their prayers. Even while she was in the hospital, she was out of consciousness. When they visit, they normally would hold her hand and pray for her. My mom would smile. We tried to ask my mom if it is helping her, because she hardly can speak, right? So she'll give us a nudge. I said, are you happy? She gave us a nudge. She's happy. Then we wonder why. She said she don't really know their religion. Not know, but heart. Very happy. So many people praying for me.
Yeah.
So I hope it answers your question.
Yeah.
That's the
they
thing.
can feel the love.
The patient who's going to die feels happy that strangers are praying for you. So I think that is one of the very strong points about whether you're Christians or Hindus or whatever. As long as there are prayers coming in, even we don't know your religion, we don't really understand much, but the fact that you're a stranger, your religion is a strange religion to us, we are happy that we are even taught of. Maybe you may say that it's ego, but I think a human being really have that comfort feel. And it's a nice way to die because so many people are praying for you.
Yes.
That's the one. The other one, my own question is this. There was a time when one of the Bhante was very sick. We were told that he's at terminal stage. So every night, we had people chanting from all over Malaysia. And we're given a schedule. Each individual or groups has given a schedule. There was one individual lady, she's a cancer patient. And she selected a time and she made the prayer. Bhante on the other end was receiving the chanting, the metta chanting from her. Quite exclusive in that sense, right? Later, I attended the Dharma talk. And in the Dharma talk, one of the Bhantes mentioned this. If a person is very sick, if you have cancer or leukemia or something like that, and you're trying to give metta to another party, it is quite tough because your pain may attack you anytime. So the thing is my question is this. If you're lying on the bed and you're dying and you heard your friend is also very sick, can we still do metta? This is my question.
Okay.
Because you're in a lot of pain.
Yeah.
At the brink of dying, the elements are leaving your body. As each of the element leave, you feel the pain even stronger. Whatever morphine or whatever that you hit the person will feel that pain very intensely. Yet, if you hear somebody is sick, somebody is dying, just like you, if the person is dear to you, you tend to want to do merits, but should we then consider giving merits?
Yeah, thank you, Sister. Actually, yeah, here actually we have to distinguish between, sharing merits and sending metta. It's two different things, so we learn now we cannot share merits, we can only share the meritorious deed, and then, but metta is something different, we generate this genuine willingness, this wish for others, and others can, feel it. And so your question is that can we give metta when we are in pain, when we are dying? Of course, no one will have, we will not have that, when we are in extreme pain, and when we are in fear of dying, a normal person, in fear of dying, and they have no way that they can focus their mind on others. But for someone who has practicing, metta practice for all over the life, for that person, even one's own pain will not be a burden for them to, develop metta to others. But without training, you will not be able to do it. Most of the time, in normal mind, you will only concern your pain. You will develop resentment towards that pain. You want to, get rid of that pain. If someone come and even you don't like other people come and talk to you, right? And so because you think that you focus too much of you. But for a practitioner, if you have been practicing doing loving kindness for a long time, that is one of the benefits of practicing loving kindness, right? So and then for such a person, you can observe your pain, you can feel your pain, and then you can use your pain as a point that you can empathize with others' pain. Oh, this should be the way that other person is feeling. Let me wish that person to be free from this pain. And then be well and happy. As a result, the person wishing will also be free from, pain too. But you need a lot of training to do that. Yes. Okay, so maybe before we conclude, the one common other question people ask: can we also transfer demerits? Demerits. How about that, right? Transfer some of your demerits, like some of your papa, What is the other name, brother? It's bad karma. Maybe, can you transfer some of your bad karma to your enemy or someone? If you can transfer merits, why not, bad karma, right? So we understood now, actually what we are doing is we are inviting others to rejoice our meritorious deed. If they rejoice, they will generate merits for themselves. Actually, when we come to bad karma, if the other people approves, our, hurting others, and as a result of you enjoy the hurting others, you enjoy the pain of others. As a result, we will defile our mind right there. And so no one is actually transferring the bad karma, but by seeing others' bad deeds, and then developing some kind of enjoying that killing or hurting others can definitely defile our mind, and then can produce bad karma for us. Think about during conflicts, during wars, today we killed 10 enemies. Okay, that's what the news will say. If the other people, oh good, they have killed 10. They should do more, right? And if you do that, you actually what you are doing, you're really defiling your mind. You enjoy killing of other human beings. So bad karma is not really, because we know that karma is non-transferable. But just like we rejoice other people's good deeds and purify our heart and generate merits for ourselves, demerits or bad karma can also be produced by ourselves by observing other people's bad behavior. So whenever you get some bad news killing or hurting or something bad happening to other people in social media, and if you enjoy, yes, that is done, yeah. And what we are doing, actually, we are generating bad karma for ourselves. We are defiling our mind. So it's possible in both directions, yeah. You don't need to share. Yes, that's right.
Firstly, I think after listening to your Dhamma sermon, I think all the Buddhist books and chanting books have to be rewritten. All the texts, even the little book that we use every day, says, may this merit accrue to our relatives.
Yeah. Actually, brother, this is how, even the Buddhist text, they translate patti, as merits.
Yeah.
So that's the issue. Actually, I published one article in Buddhist Studies Review in London University explaining that with more details that Bhakti does not stand for merits. Bhakti stands for share.
So I think it's a common mistake that
very common mistake.
That's being propagated, and I think
Yeah.
we all as lay people get the wrong information. The other thing is, Bhante, once there was a monk who was here, and he actually propagated the idea that most of us, I mean, when we transfer merits to our share our merits with our departed, most of our departed are good people. They don't need our merits. We actually should be sharing the merits that we do with the petas and the other worldly realms, which actually need it more than our relatives. What is your view on this, Bhante?
I think I agree with that. So that is why when we share meritorious deeds, we first share with our departed relatives because we have a duty to do it, and then we share merits with divine beings and all other celestial, all other living beings. Right? When we say ettavatacha, and we say deva anumodantu, and we say bhuta anumodantu, we say sattha anumodantu. So we dedicate this merit. If there's any being who are in need of such, rejoicing, I'm inviting them, I'm giving the opportunity, I'm dedicating this, and may they do it. I think I agree with that, So, and even not only like unseen beings, but even like other human beings, there can be beings, there can be people who would like to come to this Dhamma talk but could not come because of the other obligations or whatever. So we can also invite them also, anyone who's not capable of doing it but willing to do it or willing to approve it, appreciate it, we should give the opportunity. I think I will agree with that. Okay. Yes, brother.
Bhante, just want to seek your clarification regarding this Janu Soni Sutta.
Yes.
According to this sutta, Buddha said devas they cannot receive the merits. Those who are reborn in the devas world, they cannot receive the merit. If such, then why do we chant and ask the devas and nagas to come and receive the merit?
No. They can, but they have to do the rejoicing. The problem is that when they are having all these pleasures and good luck and fortunes, they don't bother. They don't bother. I mean, think about when we are having a good time, we don't bother, right? And when we are struck by a problem, then we become serious about life. So most of the devas, and because they are actually enjoying the benefits of their meritorious deeds, but they don't have wisdom. So the beings who are born in the divine realm are, good, the people who have done a lot of meritorious deeds, but not necessarily who have developed wisdom. Of course, some have developed wisdom too, but mostly not. So therefore, they don't bother about, rejoicing in the merit. They think that they are going to live forever because their life is longer than, normal people. So but if they have some, samma ditti, maybe in their previous lives, and then they will pay attention to it. But the problem is that because you have to pay attention to it and you have to rejoice it. So in principle, devas can, but how often they will do is up to them. But I think in principle anyone can if they pay attention to, right? But here actually what Buddha is specifically saying is actually the Brahmi and the Vedic rituals that they do, actually physical offerings that they make. Because they offer, milk rice, the all different offerings. So Buddha is referring to that here, that only the petas will be able to smell and get some benefits, but not the others are not interested in rice. Yes.
Brother Leslie, thank you for inviting Bhante on this topic. So if I understand today, actually the topic today is probably have to be changed to merit stock market and how to intelligently trade it to benefit the most.
Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah. Maybe next round we will do it, brother. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Yes, yes, brother.
Bhante, is it the lower realm, the devils and the asuras cannot receive
Animals.
animal, the lower realm? So even
Yeah, I mean, if they, I don't know, maybe we can train our dogs maybe to rejoice, our good deed, maybe, we can train them, but
how about the petas and the ghosts, hungry ghosts?
Petas can.
Yes,
Yeah.
hungry ghosts and the lower.
Yeah, again, anyone who has wrong views, like, I mean, so they are not
cannot.
eligible, yeah.
Thank you, Bhante.
Welcome, welcome. So that is why we should, do our own merits, without waiting for others, yeah. And if we understand the role of the receiver, which is anumodana, which is a very, high level of, mental activity, genuine appreciation, and purifying one's heart based on some other's good deed. And, like mudita, it's same, mudita and anumodana, they are all connected. So empathizing and rejoicing, genuinely purifying one's heart is not a simple act. It is a quite complex act. So anyone has to do it in order to generate merits for themselves. Whoever can do it will get the benefit. Yeah. Okay, now come to the practice part to conclude. So conclude the Dhamma Deshana. So now we have to dedicate our meritorious deed. So that is what we are going to do now. So let's do it. And today, by coming to this Dhamma talk, you spend a lot of your time and energy, and you give your whole attention, you spend your time, you dedicate it to your body, speech, and mind to listen to the Dhamma, listen to the teachings of the Buddha, and listen to this important, practice and practice of generosity. This is a practice of gratitude that we are doing to all others. So by spending this time wholesome way, we have generated a lot of merits, and we engage in a meritorious deed. As listeners, you did the meritorious deed of listening to the Dhamma. As a speaker, I also did the meritorious deed of preaching the Dhamma. So we now can dedicate this meritorious deed to our departed relatives and to all other ancestors and to all our other divine beings and any other living being. Let us focus our mind on them, and first of all, let us dedicate this meritorious deed to all our teachers. They may not need this rejoicing, this meritorious deed, but if they are willing, we would like to invite all our spiritual teachers, starting from our late Chief Kesari Dhammananda Nayaka Maha Thera, and also our beloved teacher, late Dr. Madhavala Punnaji Maha Thera, and also our beloved sister Bodhi. We invite them, and any of other teachers who passed away, we invite them to rejoice in this meritorious deed. May they approve this meritorious deed, may they rejoice in this meritorious deed, and may they be benefited from this meritorious deed. And all of your departed relatives, your ancestors, your parents, grandparents, if they are in such a need, may they rejoice in this wholesome deed, may they be benefited from these deeds. With this wish, we will chant. Idang me nyati nang hotu sukhita hontu nyateyo. Idang me nyati nang hotu sukhita hontu nyateyo. Idang me nyati nang hotu sukhita hontu nyateyo. Let us also dedicate this meritorious deed to all other divine beings and any other living being. If there's any living being in this world, in the one of the 6 realms, would like to share this meritorious deed, may they do so. May all divine beings and all other living beings share these meritorious deeds. May they be benefited from these meritorious deeds. May they increase their peace, joy, well-being, and happiness in their lives. Ettavata ca amhehi sambhatam punya sampadam sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ettavata ca amhehi sambhatam punya sampadam sabbe bhuta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ettavata ca amhehi sambhatam punya sampadam sabbe satta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.